I once read somewhere that the winner of a high-power rifle match is the person that had the best natural point of aim. While not the sole deciding factor in winning, natural point of aim is certainly a very important component. So important, in fact, that several people have asked me to make a video about it. First, let's understand what natural point of aim, or N.P.A, means. I could give you a dictionary definition, but it might be better to show you. Let's say I'm getting ready to shoot prone. The sling is on my arm. I lay down on the mat. The target is downrange, and I'm ready to shoulder the rifle. But when I mount the rifle into my shoulder, I'll close my eyes before I even look through the scope. With my eyes still closed, I breathe a couple of times, relax my forward arm, and do all the things that I normally do leading up to the shot break. When I feel like I would be ready to shoot, I open my eyes and see where the rifle is pointed. In this case, the center of my hold is in the 6 ring at about 8 o'clock. That is my natural point of aim. This is the location on target where my position dictates the rifle wants to stay. If this location is in the middle of the target, then all is good and we can proceed with firing the shot. But much more often the location will be here, or even here. In those situations, if we were to push the rifle to the middle, we would be fighting our N.P.A. Sometimes we could get a 10 as the result. But more often, either our position would pull the sights back to our N.P.A, or our attempt to push the rifle would result in the shot going out the other side. In either scenario, fighting against our N.P.A will lead to much larger groups and cost us points. Since my N.P.A is rarely centered when I first point the rifle downrange, let's go over the process I use to adjust it. One thing to keep in mind here is that the movements that you will see are really exaggerated for illustrative purposes. These don't move my N.P.A from one scoring ring to another. This amount of shift moves me from target to target. Subtle movements work better, but are harder to see on video. Just keep that in mind as you watch these positions. There are 2 components to N.P.A, horizontal and vertical. Each of these, or both, will have to be adjusted for each stage of fire. Let's start with prone. To adjust my horizontal N.P.A, I think of my forward elbow as a pivot point. While this forward elbow remains in position, I rotate my belt buckle around it. This moves my N.P.A left or right. To adjust vertical N.P.A, again, I will leave my forward elbow in place, but this time I shift my torso towards or away from the target. This raises or lowers the back of the rifle. Look at it again and let me freeze my original position. Now, watch as I slide my torso towards and away from the target. What about sitting? Well, since there are different sitting positions, it's a little difficult to have a universal adjustment method. I shoot a modified cross-ankle position, so I'll show how to adjust that. In my sitting position, the left leg is more or less extended while the right boot is under my left calf. For horizontal N.P.A, I still use the concept of the pivot point, but this time the pivot is the area on the ground where my feet are, and the rotating point is my butt. Vertical adjustment is a little trickier, but just like prone, the support elbow remains in position. Now my butt either scoots forward or back, which pivots the rifle upward or downward. You can see how doing this angles the muzzle up or down. Now let's move to standing. In this case, it might be easier to show this position from several points of view. Since there is less contact with the ground, there are also less points of N.P.A adjustment. But here, my feet are doing the work. The pivot is still valid here too. The pivot point will be my forward foot. I move my right foot forward and back, parallel to the firing line. You can see how the muzzle moves back and forth as the rear foot slides along the ground. This gives me horizontal adjustment to my N.P.A. But I don't want to adjust the angle between my feet more than I'm comfortable with. I want my foot movement to adjust my N.P.A, but not the stability of my position. For vertical adjustment, my forward foot remains in position and the back foot is shifted towards or away from the target. As my back foot gets closer to the forward one, this elevates my forward hip. Since I have a bone-supported position that uses the hip for support, the rifle elevates as well. The drawback with using my feet to adjust my horizontal natural point of aim is that there is a lot of distance between them and the rifle. This means altering foot position may not take into account all the other parts of my upper body that affect N.P.A. So I came up with another method to adjust horizontal N.P.A in a more subtle way. I twist my torso towards the side that I want my N.P.A to shift. This kind of breaks loose my hips within my coat and repositions them. I still have the same upper body support underneath the rifle, but my torso is in a slightly different place in relation to my hips, legs, and feet. Because of this, I also have a slightly different horizontal N.P.A. Because standing has little support from the ground, the greater movement in this position makes small refinements in N.P.A tricky to see. These are the techniques I use to get the best possible natural point of aim for each shot. Feel free to try them or come up with your own. Either way, by refining your N.P.A, you give each shot a better chance to hit the middle of the target. Good luck and good shooting.